Do you guys remember that popular TikTok trend where a woman will ask their spouse or boyfriend how often they think of the Roman Empire?
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
You gotta be kidding.
Probably every 15 seconds. Why?
Well, if someone asked this same question to Francis Ford Coppola, I'm willing to bet that his answer would be too often. Far too often.
Francis Ford Coppola predicted 9/11.
Megalopolis, more like MegaFLOPolis. Am I right, guys? Got it! This movie is so strange to me. I don't think anybody really knew what this movie was gonna be about. The only thing I knew, and I'm pretty sure the only thing most people knew, was that it was made by the same guy who made Godfather. Oh my God, those movies are good. And it's his passion project. He's putting a lot of money into it. So it's probably gonna be something. So I asked you guys on Instagram what you wanted me to review, and I gave you two options, The Mousetrap or Megalopolis. Were there other options out there that are better? Of course, but I chose these two. And you're watching this video right now because Megalopolis won. If you'd like to decide my fate in the future, then go follow me on Instagram, and you might see a poll like this on my story. I'll probably review The Mousetrap at some point as well. First thing I wanna say, it's kind of a cool name for a movie, Megalopolis. You know, like the word mega, like MEGALOPOLIS, mega, you know, like big, huge, like it's just a cool name for a movie, I think. The word is used to describe a mega city, so kind of like metropolis, which is similar, but that's defined as a large city that operates as a capital or important hub of a region or something. Anyway, Megalopolis was written, directed, and fully funded by Francis Ford Coppola. $120 million down the drain of his own money. He sold his wineries to make this thing, and as most of you probably know, Francis Ford Coppola is the same celebrated director that made great movies such as The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. Some might not know this, but Nicolas Cage is Francis Ford Coppola's nephew. Cage's name that he was born with was Nicholas Kim Coppola. Since we know, I can't go a single video without mentioning the man. Coppola had said that this was his dream movie, one that he's been wanting to make for years and years. According to The Guardian, there were about 300 rewrites to the script. That's kind of a big red flag, I think. You'd imagine around the 50th rewrite, they would go, you know what? Maybe we should scrap it and make something else. And it must be said that an 84-year-old man directing a movie is impressive. When you're that age, a lot of things that younger people take for granted become a lot more tiresome. So the fact that he was able to direct this movie in the first place is pretty crazy. Also, he decided to renovate a drive-in motel that he was living in during shooting, and he did this while shooting. Interesting time to do that. The British director Mike Figgis had said when he arrived in Atlanta, he was looking for accommodation for his extended family, and he wasn't finding anything he particularly liked. So he bought a drive-in motel, which had just closed, and decided to renovate it. So all the way through the shoot, he lived there. The construction noise started at 6 in the morning. If both of those projects combined weren't a pain in the ass, his wife also fell ill during filming, which must have made things more difficult for Coppola. So I can't imagine making this movie was a breeze. One crew member had said it was like watching a train wreck unfold day after day, week after week, and knowing that everybody there had tried their hardest to help the train wreck be avoided, they couldn't help but ask themselves, has this guy ever made a movie before? It also sounds as if a lot of the crew were left standing around doing nothing. One crew member said this for The Guardian. He would often show up in the mornings before these big sequences, and because he wouldn't allow his collaborators to put a plan in place, he would often just sit in his trailer for hours on end, wouldn't talk to anybody, was often smoking marijuana, and hours would go by without anything being filmed. And the crew and the cast would all stand around and wait. And then he would come out and whip up something that didn't make sense, and that didn't follow anything anybody had spoken about or anything that was on the page. And we would all just go along with it, trying to make the best out of it. But pretty much every day, we would just walk away shaking our heads wondering what we just spent the last 12 hours doing. Based on the articles I read, it sounds like Coppola had a basic idea or a framework of the movie he wanted to make in his mind, but he wasn't entirely sure about a lot of the more specific aspects of it, which left a lot of the crew and talent feeling clueless. So it's kind of like making up things as they went along. Also, according to an article by The Hollywood Reporter, halfway through shooting in Atlanta, the movie has lost key creative talent, including its production designer and supervising art director. That's on top of losing the entire visual effects team in the first part of December. Production designer Beth Mickle and supervising art director David Scott have departed. Between firings and resignations, a source says the film now has no art department, and Coppola had said that he would fix it later or figure it out in post. Now, making a movie mustn't have been easy, especially at this scale, but it doesn't seem like this one was very well planned. I'm willing to bet that a lot of the production money was put toward the star-studded cast, which includes Adam Driver, Natalie Emanuel,
Giancarlo Esposito.
You are done.
Lawrence Fishburne, John Voight, Talia Shire, Shia LaBeouf, Jason Schwartzman, and Dustin Hoffman. At the time when these reports came out, a lot of people were questioning whether or not the movie would be completed at all. Coppola was also blasted by Variety in an article that describes how he was inappropriate with women on set. Apparently, he made some of them sit on his lap, and he was seen kissing some of the extras. There's even a video of him doing so. I should also add that in the Guardian article, the executive co-producer Darren Dimitri had stated in response, "There were 2 days when we shot a celebratory Studio 54-esque club scene, where Francis walked around the set to establish the spirit of the scene by giving kind hugs and kisses on the cheek to the cast and background players. It was his way to help inspire and establish the club atmosphere, which was so important to the film. I was never aware of any complaints of harassment or ill behavior during the course of the project." I mean, did he really have to kiss them though? This defense is pretty weak, I think. If he was acting in a scene, it would be different, but he wasn't. So the reviews for the movie come out, and they aren't great to say the least. So then a trailer is made and released as a desperate Hail Mary to get people into seats. And in this trailer, there are reviews blasting his other movies, like The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, showing the audience that reviews aren't everything. And sometimes movies just aren't released at the right time. People didn't like The Godfather or Apocalypse Now when they first came out.
True genius is often misunderstood.
It took years and years, just kidding. Just kidding. It's just not true though. People love those movies. And it is true that reviews aren't everything. In fact, I love a lot of movies that have poor reviews. But what makes this very strange is that all of the negative reviews that were displayed in this trailer were fake. After realizing this, Lionsgate had the trailer recalled. Bless you, IGN, for keeping the trailer up. In an article by Variety, it says, "Lionsgate is immediately recalling our trailer for Megalopolis." A Lionsgate spokesperson said, "We offer our sincere apologies to the critics involved and to Francis Ford Coppola and American Zoetrope for this inexcusable error in our vetting process. We screwed up. We are sorry." The article goes on to say, the video included several quotes from critics panning Coppola's previous work, but none of the phrases attributed to the likes of Roger Ebert and Pauline Kael could be found in any of their reviews. What were they thinking making this trailer? Surely there had to be some bad reviews of these movies that they could use without fabricating some. Why not use these?
Well, it wasn't that I thought it was gonna bomb, as everyone around me thought it was gonna bomb.
It's honestly hilarious because they decide to cite actual critics that are still around today who will definitely at some point see this trailer. Like, what the hell? Why not just use "it insists upon itself"?
How can you even say that, Dad?
Didn't like it.
It's so funny that a trailer like this would be made in the first place, even if the negative reviews were true. It's such a blatant attempt at pulling the wool over the eyes of the viewers. And while it's true that initial reactions aren't everything, and some movies age better than others, the trailer, in trying to convince people that the movie will be great in 10 years, trust us guys, we're crystal ball gazers with perfect taste, it had the opposite effect of what they were hoping. It tells people that they know the movie is bad, but they're still gonna try everything in their power to make money anyway.
Can they just take this money and just build homeless shelters for people? Like, and do something good with it? I don't know. Pay for people's cancer drugs. Build a homeless shelter. Hollywood is the worst.
To the future.
Okay, so we should probably talk about the movie now, right? So how is it? Well, it's long. Like, imagine taking a horrific claustrophobic train ride across the entirety of India. Okay, before I say anything else, let me say that wrenching a big idea from the trenches of your mind and making it a reality is no easy task. Not even when you have $100+ million to do it. So I applaud Francis for making this thing in the first place, despite his age and everything else. He put his money down to make his passion project, and I think that's commendable. We should all strive to create in a similar way. That being said,
What do you think of this boner I got?
Imagine, if you will, New York City as a pseudo-Rome empire that's called New Rome. And in this empire, one of the most powerful people exclaims to the high heavens that rich people suck, and they'll be the downfall of the empire. Oh, and he's the insightful one. This movie is so far up its own ass that it forgot it entered the asshole in the first place. Very early on into the movie, there's a line that's straight out of Fight Club.
Yet there's always time to convince them to use money they don't have, to buy things they don't need, to imitate people they don't like.
Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need.
Or will we too fall victim, like old Rome, to the insatiable appetite for power of a few men?
Because this movie's very deep. Adam Driver plays a man named Caesar, and he's an architect with the power to stop time. He gained this power through a super material he discovered somehow called Megalon. How exactly he got this power and why only he can use it is never explained. He has a vision for the future, where his empire is built entirely out of this new material, Megalon. This new empire is dubbed his Megalopolis, and it will never fall. In this new empire, people will come together and live and work in harmony forever, because the buildings are sturdier, curlier, and can't be burned down. Oh, and Megalon has powers to heal people too, I guess. Megalon's capabilities aren't fully explained in this movie. It's hinted that his emotions are tied to this power somehow, but we're never told exactly how. There are some moments throughout that genuinely feel like they're ripped straight out of a Neil Breen movie. There's a scene when Caesar stares out of the window of his car and sees statues collapsing before his eyes. But like, not collapsing like you would imagine statues would collapse. They're collapsing as if they're human and exhausted from standing. It's very odd, but very profound.
This doesn't make sense.
There's an elevator scene with terrible looking green screen effects, and at the top they walk on a giant clock that's facing upward. Okay, I know it's supposed to resemble time or something. I don't know. I hate it. Why does it look so bad? The most powerful man in the city is named Crassus, and he marries a random reporter named Wow Platinum, played by Aubrey Plaza. Why is her name Wow Platinum?
How did you get the name Wow Platinum?
I picked it up at Penn Station on my way to an employment agency.
Anyway, and there's a scene of him gnawing on her shoulder like he's a dog playing with a toy. Also, the camera is drunk during the Emperor's marriage celebration. There's this like super obvious Dutch angle, and it flip-flops from side to side. The camera dips are way too drastic. I know what they're doing with the camera, focusing on different aspects of the shot, but the way it's executed is so clumsy and awkward. I must add that this is definitely the goldest movie of the year. There's a lot of gold in this movie. Even the color grading is gold. Watching this movie is like grinding gold into a fine powder and snorting it. Whatever that does, yeah, that's what it's like watching Megalopolis. We get to watch these Coliseum games. It's this big long sequence. It goes on forever and it's headache inducing. It has this constant rhythm of drums in the background with people yelling and announcing. Drunk Caesar was pretty funny though. They put a giant spiral behind him when he's drunk like he's from the movie Dumbo. In this movie, a woman is described and announced to the crowd as a vision of virginal veracity.
A virginal.
She took your love pledge.
And she can seemingly multiply at will. And there's a bunch of rich people in the crowd that try to claim her virginity. They're like bidding on it. Shia LaBeouf's character Claudio exposes this woman as the fake virgin she truly is, in front of everybody. He puts this video of her and Caesar up on screen so everybody can see that she's done the dirty deed. And Claudio has this incredible line afterward. Revenge tastes best while wearing a dress.
Revenge tastes best while wearing a dress.
So true, Shakespeare. What? Out of nowhere, a news report turns into a music video at one point. So then Caesar loses his power to stop time suddenly and without explanation. Maybe it's supposed to show us that he lost the passion for what he does because his reputation is down the toilet. But he gets his power back. All he needed was the power of love and sweet Julia's touch. I don't know, something like that. I don't know what's happening.
This doesn't make sense.
So these two perilously embrace and make out 1,500 feet in the air. This is followed by a cloud hand reaching out and grabbing the moon? Oh, never mind. It's just part of this guy's nightmare. Very spooky. That was weird. Try to guess who said the following quote. My greatest fear is to make a really shitty, embarrassing, pompous film on an important subject and I am doing it. I will tell you right straight from the most sincere depths of my heart, the film will not be good. That's Francis Ford Coppola talking about Apocalypse Now. That quote feels a lot more appropriate for Megalopolis, if I'm honest. Caesar's fraught relationship with his mother is so weird. He's desperate for her love, but her dismissal and hatred of him isn't believable at all. At the marriage, she literally tells him that she likes crocodiles because they eat their young, and by saying this, it can be easily inferred that she would prefer if he was dead. It's just weird for someone to say that to their own child. Like, what the hell? So to say that she's a shitty mom would be kind of an understatement, I think. So poor people are losing their homes, and then a satellite plummets to Earth in pieces. A reporter asks Caesar, "You've said when we jump to the future, we should do so unafraid. But what if there is something to be afraid of?" And Caesar responds, "Well, there's nothing to be afraid of if you've loved or have loved. It's an unstoppable force. It's unbreakable.
It has no limits. It's within us. It's around us.
And it's stretched throughout time. It's nothing you can touch, yet it guides every decision that we make. Yet we do have the obligation to each other to ask questions of one another. What can we do? Is this society, is this way we're living the only one available to us? And when we ask these questions, when there's a dialogue about them, that basically is a utopia." I'm gonna go ahead and take an educated guess that Caesar doesn't have a Twitter account. We then see the internal workings of Caesar's creative mind. He creates buildings that resemble flowers and leaves. He reimagines what they should look like, until what he's finally thought up looks exactly like every alien city planet created in any sci-fi video game ever made. So I guess all the poor people are now living in these plant buildings somehow. All of their income has been supplemented, their debts vanished, their drug addictions handled. All the problems in the world are gone because our buildings look like giant plants. This movie is trying to tackle civilization's biggest quandaries, but does so on an elementary level. It tries to be profound by throwing quotes around non-stop. One such example is during this card game between Caesar and the mayor Cicero. They discuss the practicality of creating a utopia and what is required to do so, if it's even possible.
Oh dear, blah, blah, blah.
Which it isn't. It never will be. By design, humanity is incapable of creating a utopia.
Civilization itself remains the great enemy of mankind.
But this movie's like, oh, if only you thought bigger. You know, all you need is a building material named Megalon and this random dictator guy that preaches about love and stuff. That'll fix everybody's problems. So Caesar and Claudio have this political rivalry going on. The mayor doesn't want Caesar marrying his daughter, so he tries to bribe him to convince her he doesn't love her anymore. Of course he doesn't do this, because this guy is all about love, dude. Wow Platinum, such a dumb name, wants Caesar's affections and tries to buy them using her husband's money. She's like that stereotypical materialistic girl that is obsessed with obtaining power.
Me and Crassus's bank, which I'll steal so I can give it to you.
What the hell is this transitional edit between sequences with a giant goofy radio tower and clouds above the earth? Like, what the hell is this? And the dialogue here is so weird.
The new revolution, man. Sex, drugs, and Megalon.
The new revolution, man. Sex, drugs, and Megalon. It's so weird because it has the same energy as like a 1970s sex, drugs, and rock and roll type thing, while also trying to be a futuristic sci-fi. It just feels disjointed and without identity. So then Caesar is shot in the face by a child that Claudio's henchmen hired to assassinate him. And then the movie turns into a psychedelic fever dream, where Caesar repeats the same mantra over and over. I will not let time have dominion over my thoughts.
I will not let time have dominion over my thoughts.
This sounds like something an elderly man who's nearing the end of their career and life would think. Almost as if this movie is just Francis Ford Coppola's diary in movie form. Caesar survives the gunshot to his dome, by the way, which is very realistic. Also, what the hell is this edit of a naked woman underwater? She opens up into a bunch of people who look like rocks, and then Caesar is there in the corner giving his literal heart away. It's very profound. It's very artistic. I'm just too stupid.
This doesn't make sense.
In the next scene, after Claudio is done being a dickhead and Caesar is done screaming, no, 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 over and over. He takes off his face covering to reveal that his wound has been healed with Megalon, and the CGI on his face is just top notch. What a miraculous glowing effect. It looks like shit. WoW Platinum, upon seeing his glowing eye and head, rips her diamond necklace off in a heat of passion. Because, I mean, he looks great. He definitely doesn't resemble some strange science experiment human right now. She should totally want him still. This movie's dialogue is infuriating. It's just non-stop poems, quotes, and musings. Quoting Hamlet, The Tempest, Marcus Aurelius, and Petrarch doesn't automatically make your movie some like highbrow, super profound, and artistically deep piece of filmmaking.
You're quoting Petrarch, misquoting him. Julia can quote anyone.
Why show the audience that Claudio abuses his power over his followers in a natural and human way, when you can just have a scene where he throws his hat on the ground and asks his followers to pick it up, and then have that followed up with everyone behind him doing the same thing to those behind them?
Pick up my hat. Pick up my hat. Pick up my hat.
I think this is Francis Ford Coppola's attempt at humor or something, maybe, but it just feels like a Three Stooges sketch. As much as I love Aubrey Plaza, I much prefer her in roles where she's snarky and sarcastic rather than a power-hungry maniac, but she's still decent enough in this film.
Excuse me, do you have anything by the Clash at Demon Head?
Have you tried the section marked The Clash at Demon Head?
Shia LaBeouf, on the other hand, is perfect in his role because I feel like he's just playing himself. The seduction scene between Claudio and WoW Platinum is so unbelievably awkward. Caesar and Julia get married in the back of a car. Isn't this guy rich? Whatever. It's followed up by random celebration footage that's split into thirds, like the screen is literally split into thirds, and it feels very sloppy. Sometimes it'll be a full image just cut into thirds, and other times it'll be the same image of Claudio just flipped on the left and right side, or 3 images of the same singer. It's just awkward to watch and doesn't feel all that necessary. It just feels like Francis Ford Coppola was trying to flex his artistic muscles or his filmmaking prowess with this part. Like, oh my god, look at how cool the editing is. It's so epic and unique. So Claudio and WoW Platinum go to Crassus's bedside to pay their respects since he's dying. And this is what Coppola thought would be an appropriate line for the old dying man.
What do you think of this boner I got?
Now this is cinema. It turns out his ridiculous boner was actually just a toddler's bow and arrow. It looks like the same exact type of bow and arrow that would fire miniature plungers to stick onto walls. He fires this comedically tiny arrow with it. He shoots it at WoW. It's strangely strong for some reason. This teeny little bow, and the fact that they made him use a bow instead of like a crossbow is so funny because an elderly dying man wouldn't have the strength to pull back a bowstring, especially one strong enough to kill somebody. He fires another arrow into Claudio's asshole as he tries to flee. Make that 2. So Caesar fixes his face entirely, I guess, somehow, whatever. So that's cool. He continues his unrelenting musings about the nature of mankind. That's basically all he's done throughout the entire movie. He has managed to build a portion of this megalopolis dream that he has. It looks like an outdoor modern art exhibit, except gigantic. There are these huge sci-fi gold flowery structures that make 0 sense, but he's the genius, so what do I know? He's the architect. So Caesar, with Cassus's financial support, is now able to construct this odd city of gold and light, where people travel around in spheres and live in giant golden glowing coral reef looking structures. Everyone is happy now because we get to travel around in these little ball things straight out of that Jurassic World movie. Everyone's debt has been erased. The housing crisis has been averted. People live in harmony. Capitalism is on its way out, somehow, which makes no sense. Whatever. The world is great, guys. Just don't think too hard about all this, because clearly Francis didn't. Hilariously, the movie ends with a new Pledge of Allegiance, except this one is for mankind. In this world, because of Megalon, the entire world of humanity has united under one banner, the human banner. The flag is just like a human hand or something. He dedicates the film to his late wife, which I think is very sweet, especially since this is a movie about mankind moving in a better direction. As much as I've been goofing on it, I don't know, it was kind of ambitious. Sure, this movie isn't very logical, it's far too hopeful. It tries to envision a world where greed, capitalism, hunger, and homelessness are no longer issues. How wonderful that'd be, right guys? Surely this would be an empire for the ages. This movie feels like it was written by an 18-year-old who is just starting to grasp how the world works and desperately wants it to change. All we need is a cool new shiny literally, building material that can also heal wounds. At the end of the movie, it's revealed that Caesar's baby also has the power to stop time, or it isn't affected by Caesar stopping of it. So that's interesting. Not sure what that says, but is it supposed to be like, oh, the next generation is gonna improve upon the last one? And I don't know, like, whatever. We rely on the next generation, so since his baby can stop time, we're good, dude. There could be an allegory between Megalon and Caesar and the power it gives him. We can kind of think of Megalon as representing the power of creativity, hope, and art versus the world around it that it's trying to build atop of, that's made of greed, politics, media, rampant consumerism, capitalism, and power over people. So I kind of get that, but it still doesn't make any sense. This movie is a bloated, muddied, messy, revolutionary allegory for a better tomorrow. And it's a shame because I don't think we get enough movies like that nowadays. Megalopolis? More like I mega flop on her tits.
You kiss your mother with that mouth?
More like she mega sop up this Riz. Oh my God. More like she mega cop alien clothing fits. Go to alienclothing.com, baby. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.